AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because her fiancé excluded my husband from the guest list. So here's the situation. My sister, Chloe 30 female, is getting married next month to her fiancé, Nathan 3 Twam Ali. What should have been a happy family occasion has turned into a source of stress and drama because Nathan decided to exclude my husband, Ethan 8 male, from the guest list. To give you some background, Chloe and AITA 9 female have always had a bit of a complicated relationship. Growing up, she was the golden child straight A's, the one who followed all the rules, and the one my parents constantly bragged about to relatives. I was more of the black sheep, the one who struggled to find her path and made more unconventional choices. Despite our differences, we've had moments where we were close, especially during hard times in our family. Ethan and I met 6 years ago at a mutual friend's birthday party. I was coming out of a bad breakup at the time, and honestly, I wasn't even planning to go to the party. But my best friend convinced me to come out for just one drink, and that's when I met Ethan. He was standing by the snack table, telling some ridiculous story that had everyone laughing. I remember thinking he had the most magnetic personality. He could light up a room without even trying. We ended up talking that night, and I was struck by how genuine he was. Beneath all the charm and jokes, he was kind and deeply thoughtful. We exchanged numbers, and from there, things just clicked. Our first date was at a little hole-in-the-wall diner where we stayed until closing, talking about everything from childhood memories to our dreams for the future. Over time, I realized Ethan wasn't just someone who made me laugh, he was also my rock. When I lost my job a few years ago and spiraled into self-doubt, he was the one who reminded me of my worth and helped me get back on my feet. When my anxiety flares up, which it often does in family situations like this, Ethan knows how to calm me down in ways no one else can. We've been married for 4 years now. And while no relationship is perfect, Ethan has always been my biggest supporter. He's the kind of person who would give you the shirt off his back. And my friends and family have always appreciated how warm and welcoming he is. Well, most of my family. Chloe was initially warm toward Ethan. When they first met, she thought he was funny and charming. And she even complimented me on how lucky I was to have found someone so outgoing and friendly. But over time, things started to shift. Ethan is naturally the kind of person who thrives in social settings. He tells engaging stories, cracks jokes, and genuinely enjoys connecting with people. It's not something he forces. People just gravitate toward him because he has this warm, magnetic energy that makes them feel comfortable and included. Chloe, on the other hand, has always been more reserved. She prefers smaller, quieter interactions and tends to stick with people she knows well. While she's polite in larger group settings, she's not the type to actively work the room or engage with everyone the way Ethan does. I think those differences in personality started to create tension. At first, it was subtle. Chloe would make small comments, like, "Ethan really loves being the center of attention, huh?" Or, "Doesn't he ever get tired of talking?" I didn't think much of it because they didn't seem malicious, just observations. But as time went on, I started to notice a pattern. If Ethan got a lot of praise from family or friends, Chloe would grow quieter and almost withdrawn. She'd sit off to the side, not really engaging, and later she'd make comments about how he was a bit much or how he seemed to dominate the room. The breaking point came at a family barbecue last summer. Ethan was being his usual self, talking to everyone, making jokes, playing with the kids, and even helping out with grilling. He wasn't trying to show off. He just genuinely enjoys making sure people are having a good time. Everyone seemed to appreciate his energy except Nathan. Nathan, who's even more reserved than Chloe, spent most of the barbecue sitting off to the side, barely interacting with anyone. He looked visibly annoyed whenever Ethan told a joke that got the group laughing, or when Ethan stepped in to entertain the kids so the parents could relax. At one point, Ethan suggested a friendly game of charades, and the entire family joined in, laughing and having fun. Nathan declined to play and just sat there, looking irritated. Later, Chloe pulled me aside and said Nathan felt like Ethan was too much and accused him of stealing the spotlight and making the day about himself. She said Nathan felt overshadowed and didn't enjoy being in an environment where Ethan's energy was front and center. I was taken aback because I didn't see Ethan doing anything inappropriate. He was just being himself. I tried to explain that Ethan wasn't trying to overshadow anyone, but Chloe doubled down, saying that Nathan doesn't feel comfortable around him and that Ethan's personality can be overwhelming. At the time, I brushed it off as a personality clash and figured they'd move past it. After all, not everyone is going to vibe perfectly, and I assumed that with time, Nathan would come to appreciate Ethan's intentions. But now, with Nathan outright excluding Ethan from their wedding, it's clear that those feelings have only festered and grown worse. It feels like they've taken their personal frustrations with Ethan's personality and turned it into a direct attack on my marriage. Fast forward to now, and Nathan has made it very clear he doesn't want Ethan at the wedding. Chloe called me a few weeks ago to go over the details of the guest list, and that's when she casually dropped the bombshell. Ethan wasn't invited. When I asked why, Chloe hesitated for a moment before saying, Nathan's just not comfortable with him being there. She tried to frame it like it wasn't a big deal, as if excluding my husband of 4 years from a major family event could somehow be brushed under the rug. She even went so far as to call it a compromise, saying, you should still come because it's a special day for me, not Ethan. Naturally, I was furious. Ethan and I have been married for 4 years, and he has always gone out of his way to be kind and welcoming to both Chloe and Nathan. He's helped Chloe move into a new apartment, fixed things around her place when she needed it, and was always the first to jump in when Nathan needed an extra hand with something. To hear that Nathan doesn't feel comfortable around him felt like a slap in the face, not just to Ethan, but to me and our marriage as a whole. When I told Chloe that I wouldn't attend without Ethan, her response shocked me. Instead of trying to understand where I was coming from, she immediately accused me of being selfish and trying to ruin her wedding out of spite. She said I was blowing things out of proportion and making it all about me, which couldn't be further from the truth. Then she took it a step further, claiming that Ethan has a dominant personality that Nathan finds overwhelming and that his presence would make Nathan uncomfortable. She said, Nathan shouldn't have to feel overshadowed on his own wedding day, and you should respect his feelings. That comment completely floored me. First of all, this isn't about Nathan being overshadowed, it's about Nathan and Chloe. By extension, deciding that my husband's personality is a valid reason to exclude him from a major family event. Ethan isn't loud or overbearing. He's just naturally outgoing, and people tend to gravitate toward him because he's warm and engaging. How is that his fault? I told Chloe that if Nathan is so insecure about someone simply being charismatic and likable, maybe that's something he needs to work on instead of punishing Ethan for being himself. She didn't take that well and accused me of picking sides and choosing Ethan over family. But that's the thing, I am choosing Ethan because he is my family. We've built a life together, and our marriage is a partnership. Expecting me to show up to a wedding where my husband has been deliberately excluded feels not only disrespectful, but also completely unreasonable. It's not just about Ethan being uninvited. It's about the principle of it all. How can Chloe and Nathan claim to value family when they're actively alienating someone who is part of mine? The worst part is, Chloe tried to guilt trip me by saying, you're going to let one day ruin our relationship as sisters. But what she doesn't seem to understand is that this isn't just about one day. It's about respect. It's about acknowledging that my marriage matters and that my husband deserves to be treated with the same courtesy and respect as anyone else. I told Chloe that I love her, but if she and Nathan are so determined to exclude Ethan, I won't be attending. Her response: well, I guess that's your decision, but don't expect me to forgive you for missing my wedding. She hung up on me, and we haven't spoken since. Now, I'm stuck in this impossible situation where no matter what I choose, someone is going to be hurt. But at the end of the day, I don't see how I can prioritize Chloe and Nathan's comfort over the respect and dignity of my marriage. If they don't see the problem with excluding Ethan, then maybe I'm not the one ruining relationships here. Our parents are completely divided on the issue, which has only added to the emotional chaos. My dad has been vocal about how unfair and unreasonable Chloe and Nathan are being. He told me that if the roles were reversed and Nathan was the one being excluded, Chloe would be absolutely livid, and rightfully so. He thinks it's ridiculous to single Ethan out simply because of his personality, especially when Ethan has done nothing but show kindness and support for our family over the years. My dad even suggested that maybe I should skip the wedding entirely to send a clear message that this kind of exclusion isn't acceptable. On the other hand, my mom has taken a completely different stance. She keeps urging me to put family first and attend the wedding, even if it means going without Ethan. She said it's one day, and weddings are supposed to be about celebrating love and togetherness, not creating drama. She also added that Ethan would understand if I explained it to him properly, because sometimes sacrifices have to be made for the sake of family. I could tell she's trying to keep the peace, but her comments made me feel like she's minimizing Ethan's feelings and mine. What frustrates me the most is that my mom doesn't seem to grasp how much this situation is hurting Ethan, from his perspective. This isn't just about being left off a guest list, it's about being made to feel like an outsider in a family he's been part of for years. He's always gone out of his way to be warm and welcoming toward Chloe and Nathan, even after sensing their discomfort with him. He's the guy who shows up with thoughtful gifts, remembers everyone's birthdays, and steps in to help whenever anyone needs it. To be excluded like this makes him feel disrespected and undervalued, and honestly, I don't blame him. Ethan has been trying to be understanding, but I can tell this whole situation is weighing on him. He's questioning why I'd even consider attending the wedding without him, and it's causing tension between us. He asked me point blank, "How can you support someone who doesn't respect our marriage?" And honestly, I don't have a good answer for that. The truth is, I don't want to support Chloe and Nathan's decision, but I also don't want to be the person who refuses to attend her sister's wedding, knowing it could damage our relationship permanently. I feel like I'm being forced to choose between my sister and my husband, and no matter what I decide, someone is going to be hurt. If I stand by Ethan and skip the wedding, Chloe will accuse me of being petty and trying to ruin her big day. But if I go without Ethan, I'll be betraying my marriage and sending the message that I'm okay with the way Chloe and Nathan are treating him. What makes it even harder is the pressure I'm getting from both sides. My dad keeps saying, "You're doing the right thing by standing up for Ethan," while my mom keeps asking, "Do you really want to let one day ruin your relationship with your sister?" It feels like everyone has an opinion, but no one truly understands how trapped I feel in the middle of this. Ethan, understandably, feels like this decision should be a no-brainer. He told me if the situation were reversed, I'd never even think about going to an event that excluded you. And he's right. I wouldn't stand for this if someone tried to exclude me from his family. At the same time, Chloe is my sister. We've been through so much together over the years, and I don't want this to be the thing that tears us apart. No matter what I choose, I feel like I'm going to hurt someone I care about deeply, and honestly, it's exhausting. I just wish Chloe and Nathan could see how unfair and hurtful their decision is before it's too late to fix things. To me, it's not just about the wedding. This situation goes much deeper than one day or one event. It's about respecting my marriage and the person I choose to spend my life with. Ethan is my partner, my equal, and the person I built a life with. By allowing Chloe and Nathan to exclude him, I feel like I'm not only betraying him, but also sending the message that their behavior is acceptable when it's anything but. What they're doing isn't just rude, it's dismissive and disrespectful to my marriage. Ethan is part of my life, and by extension, he's part of this family, Whether Chloe and Nathan like his personality or not, they don't get to unilaterally decide he's not worthy of being included in family events. If I go to this wedding without him, I feel like I'd be condoning their actions and essentially agreeing that my marriage isn't important enough to stand up for. It's not lost on me that weddings are supposed to be about love and unity, and yet, here we are with Chloe and Nathan actively creating division. How can I celebrate their marriage when they're so blatantly disrespecting mine? The irony isn't lost on me, and it's hard not to feel a deep sense of hurt and frustration over their choices. What makes it even harder is the long-term impact this could have. It's not just about this one wedding. What happens at future family events? Do I let them exclude Ethan from other gatherings because Nathan feels uncomfortable? If I let this slide now, I worry it set a precedent that it's okay to treat Ethan as an outsider whenever it suits them. And that's just not something I can accept. I've tried to explain this to Chloe, but she just doesn't seem to understand how much this cuts me and Ethan both. To her, it's as simple as one day, but to me, it's about principle. Ethan is my family, and by excluding him, they're excluding a part of me. It's not just a snub to him, it's a snub to us as a couple, to everything we built together, and to the life we share. And the idea of just sucking it up for the sake of peace. That feels like such a betrayal of everything I stand for. Yes, I want to keep the peace, but at what cost? My peace, Ethan's peace, and the peace in our marriage. I feel like I'm being asked to sacrifice something that shouldn't even be negotiable. The respect and inclusion of my husband. Ethan has been so hurt by this situation, and understandably so. He's questioning why I'd even consider going without him, and it's creating tension between us that we've never experienced before. It's hard to look him in the eye and justify why I'd even entertain the idea of attending a wedding where he's been so blatantly excluded. At the same time, the thought of skipping my sister's wedding is heartbreaking. Chloe and I have had our ups and downs over the years, but I never thought something like this would come between us. I don't want this to be the thing that tears us apart, but I also don't see how I can prioritize her feelings over the basic respect and dignity of my marriage. So Reddit, AITA for refusing to go to Chloe and Nathan's wedding without Ethan. Or should I just suck it up for the sake of keeping the peace? Part of me feels like I'm doing the right thing by standing up for Ethan and our marriage, but another part of me is terrified of what this decision could mean for my relationship with Chloe. I'm so torn, and I don't know how to move forward without leaving someone I care about deeply hurt. What would you do in my shoes? 1. Top comment, NTA. You're absolutely doing the right thing by standing up for your husband and your marriage. It's not about one day, it's about the lack of respect Chloe and Nathan are showing toward both of you. If you let this slide now, what happens when they decide Ethan isn't welcome at future family events? This isn't a situation where you can keep the peace without sacrificing something important. Chloe and Nathan need to realize that their actions have consequences, and they can't expect you to prioritize their comfort over your marriage. To another perspective, Chloe and Nathan are obviously in the wrong for excluding Ethan, but your approach isn't great either. Instead of making an ultimatum, maybe you could have sat down with them and really tried to hash this out. Sometimes people act irrationally because of deeper insecurities, like Nathan being uncomfortable with Ethan's outgoing nature, and while it's not your job to fix that, a calm, honest conversation might have opened their eyes. Right now, it sounds like everyone is digging their heels in, and no one is willing to compromise. 3. Support for Ethan. And I think Ethan's feelings are the most important here. If roles were reversed and someone excluded you from an event, would Ethan go without you? Probably not. Marriage is a partnership, and by standing up for him, you're showing that you value and respect him. If Chloe can't see how hurtful this is, that's on her, not you. Update. Thank you, Reddit, for all your thoughtful responses. It really helped me see things more clearly. Here's what happened since I last posted. After reading through your comments, I realized I couldn't compromise on this. This wasn't just about attending a wedding, it was about standing up for my husband and our marriage. I called Chloe again and tried one last time to talk this through with her. I explained how hurtful it was for her and Nathan to exclude Ethan and how their decision made me feel like they didn't respect my relationship. Unfortunately, Chloe doubled down. She said Nathan's feelings were valid and insisted that it was their wedding, so they had every right to decide who they wanted there. When I asked her how she would feel if the roles were reversed and Ethan excluded Nathan from something so important, she brushed it off and said, "That's different." That was the breaking point for me. I told her I loved her, but I couldn't attend a wedding where my husband was deliberately excluded. I reminded her that Ethan is my family now and that I wouldn't betray him just to keep the peace. Chloe said, "Fine, if that's how you feel," and hung up. Since then, things have been tense. My dad is completely on my side and has told me he's proud of me for standing up for Ethan. My mom, however, is upset and keeps saying I'm being stubborn and letting this ruin our family. Ethan, for his part, has been incredibly supportive. He told me he feels closer to me than ever because I chose to stand by him. And honestly, that's made all the difference. As for Chloe and Nathan, I haven't heard from them since that last call. I've decided to let them reach out when they're ready because I'm done chasing after people who don't respect my marriage. If they can't see how wrong they are, that's on them. It's been a hard few weeks, but I don't regret my decision. Ethan and I spent the day of the wedding together, doing something we love, hiking and having a quiet picnic in the mountains. It was peaceful, and it reminded me that the family I'm building with Ethan matters more than anything else. For those who asked if this will affect future family events, yes, it likely will. But if Chloe and Nathan want to keep excluding Ethan, they'll have to deal with the consequences of that. I've made it clear that I won't participate in anything where my husband isn't welcome. Thanks again, Reddit, for helping me find the strength to stand my ground. Your advice reminded me that love and respect should never be negotiable, no matter the situation.